half the league. All right, so Baylor with the off week, they play in Cincinnati, and Cincinnati, of course, has not won a Big 12 game. Baylor play there, and coming off the off week, just to be sure, was there any or has there been any discussion or was there any conversation about the protocol of any of the staff under Dave Aranda? Did you make any type of protocol or staff changes at all during the off week?
No. I think throughout the week there was a lot of self study, and so we had our defense break down and look at the offense and vice versa. And so there's they had the majority of the week to do that. That was all kind of delivered and deciphered on Thursday, and I thought there's a lot of learnings in that, and we're really leaning into that and applying a lot of those truths, however ugly, bad or good, to help us get better. And so I think we're going to lead with what the facts are and try to get better there.
Also, Craig does a column every Monday or whenever it comes out, the good, the bad, and the ugly. He almost referred to it that way when talking about the staff looking within itself.
Yeah, he did, and I feel like there is just a lot of apathy right now, guys. Typically, especially coming off of an open week, you'd probably have had a bit more activity on the coach's press conference, but I know I was just kind of tuned out, honestly, and based on searching social media, maybe some of the other platforms have it differently, but based on Twitter, I think just kind of had the usual suspects tweeting out quotes here and there, but nothing, all that interesting, to be frank. And I think everything just depends on how they play from here on out, because we've heard the words. We've heard the talk, all due respect to Dave Aranda, but it's when you've seen it and you've heard it for 6 weeks, and every Saturday you go back out there and you see the same product and it hasn't really changed that much. Like, the words just don't matter anymore, and I think that's where we are with Dave Aranda. I think that's where we are, is the words don't mean anything unless you show people. And so it can all sound good, but until you show them, and you have an opportunity to do that this week in Cincinnati, there's not going to be many, willing to listen or believe or jump on board with you. And that's just unfortunately where they've found themselves because of the way that they've played now going on really a year at this point. Yep. And so, yeah, it's a different team, but it's the same results, if not even more frustrating in some ways. And the only cure to me is winning. I mean, that's the only thing that's going to make his press conferences more interesting, or have people buy into what he's saying or believe in what he's saying, and running with it. I think it all comes down to winning, and that's something that's been hard for them to do. And if they don't do that this Saturday, then it's only going to get that much worse, losing to an 0-3 team and giving them their first Big 12 win and all that. So, this is a big one for the Bearcats, but it's also a big one for Aranda and the Bears for sure. All
right, then there's the other question. We had Mac Rhoades on last week about his involvement in conversations with Dave Aranda, so I thought it was obvious to ask the question about those conversations that Aranda's had with Mac Rhoades. Dave, Mac Rhoades mentioned that he talks with you a lot, which is, I guess, normal for an AD and a football or any coach.
Yeah.
But he also mentioned kind of just being the eyes and the ears of what he sees. How much do you talk football with him?
A fair amount, yeah. And so I appreciate the question. And, it's whenever I talk with Mac, I think there is an unfiltered truth, and there is a sincerity and compassion with everything, and so I take it very serious, and we try to apply whatever comes out of those conversations. And so I think sometimes when you're so locked into what you're doing, and it's good to be able to have the view, to have another view, another perspective, and so I count on Mac for that.
That's Dave Aranda from earlier today. They play Cincinnati coming up on Saturday.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, and Craig, you addressed this really well in your column, took that as Mac Rhoades is Jerry Jonesing this thing up. And even to even Jerry Jones credit, that's not really what he does. He's just a little too involved. Mac was just staying like, they have to have those conversations about, where do you think you're going? Where do you think the offense is headed? And how do you fix it? Because people ask Mac about that, and he has to be informed because we ask him about it. He can't very well be like, I don't know, guys. That's his deal. I'll talk to him in December. We'll figure it out. Like, that's not how that job works. So, yeah, I think that, that puts a little further clarity on that situation.
Yeah, I think the boss keeps tabs on his employees, right? And I think that Mac in those conversations is just keeping tabs on where things are. And I think also, like, yeah, you bring up the offense in particular. I mean, I think Mac just probably, like all of us, wants to know, are we going to be watching the same thing every single week the rest of the way, these next 6 games that we've been watching already? Or are y'all in the bye week and are y'all opening some things up and are y'all tweaking some things? Just tell me that you are, because God forbid that you're not, and we have to watch the same thing for 6 more games. And so that's how I took it. It was more just like, all right, like wanting to know, all right, what kind of adjustments are y'all making? What areas are you focusing on? Do you think this is an issue? Is that an issue? Tell me what the issues are. And just kind of getting a summary of where things stand and where things look to be going. Not, this is what you need to run, this is what you need to highlight, here's who to throw to, here's what offensive set to get into. But everybody knew that. You know what I mean? Like, everybody knew that who was reading those comments or listening to those comments. And the ones who took it to the extreme of, like, Jerry Jonesing and he's suddenly making the calls at the line of scrimmage or something, that they just were looking for a reason to pick it at Mac and the situation itself. So that's part of the deal when you're losing, man. You open yourself up to that type of criticism. But, yeah, I think that they just have, constructive criticism and constructive conversations, and hopefully it turns out for the better for both of them starting this week.
There's actually a thread in Sic'Em 365 Premium section that says Jerry Jones Mac Rhoades. Everybody's mad at everything. They want to blame everybody. He right now is one of those that's getting a lot of the blame. He understands where some of the things are. And it's not as if he's dictating game plan or in the film room, like trying to break down the offensive line scheme. He's not in the X's and O's department. He was just giving obvious feedback that anybody, a 5-year-old, could see that the obvious problems have been on the offense. And then it was this also concern about, well, why didn't he bring the defense up? Because my follow-up question was about the offense too. And so that is why he discussed the offense and only the offense at the time. All right.